my name is Madison and welcome back to my channel. I'm currently back home and have been for some previous videos. If y'all could not tell, I always have a hard time finding a place to film, but I feel like this has been working well, so we're sticking with it. But today I'm going to be sitting down and talking to y'all about my educational goals for 2022. I feel like goal setting and like New Year's resolutions and things like that can really be beneficial if you do it correctly. And even still, there's always ways to mess up. I feel like there's so-called correct techniques for goal setting, setting SMART goals, things that are actually measurable, have a timeline, attainable, things of that nature. But even still, things come up and life happens, COVID happens, things like that. So I feel like every year and every semester I really try to set goals for myself. I feel like this is a great way for me to kind of stay on track and help me keep my head going in the right direction. Now this looks different for everybody, and I'm going to be talking to y'all about mine, how I set mine, and why I format mine the way I do. Just like any other type of goal setting, setting your educational goals can really help you keep your head in the game and help you stay focused as to where you want to go. Now for some people this might be getting a 4.0, this might be getting an internship, it might be getting into a certain grad school, it might be, I don't know, getting a certain grade in a class, getting to know a certain professor. And while I think all that's great and setting like high expectations and standards for yourself is great, I do think that there is a limit and there is a cap as to what becomes overwhelming. And for me, setting goals for my grades never seems to work well. I made some goals this past semester for my grades as to grades I wanted to hit, and my main reasoning for that was for grad school, wanting to bring my GPA up, try to get it as high as possible, and especially do really well in the classes that I'm trying to go to grad school for. Now, going into the semester, I was like, I got this. I'm going to be able to study this many hours a day and do this many practice exams for every exam. I'm going to go to every single office hour and this and that. But at the end of the day, none of that worked out the way I wanted it to. The class I thought I was going to get the lowest grade in, I actually got the highest. And some of the classes I thought I was going to do really well in, I struggled a lot more than I thought I would. So I think setting goals for your grades can be beneficial because it helps you focus and helps you kind of realize like what you're capable of. But at the same time, there comes a point when it's too much. And for me, it was, if I wanted to have straight A's this semester, I probably would have had to quit a job. My 2 jobs that I work have some certain like hour requirements, so I have to either be willing to put in like a large chunk of hours a few times a week, or I have to hit 10 hours a week, or I have to be able to fork out X amount of time on this certain day of the week. And little things like that make it really hard for me to be studying 24/7. And if I wanted to get that 4.0 like I kind of went in hoping for, a lot of other things would have had to sacrifice. On the flip side, not everybody works. Working might not be a priority for everybody, but for me, working is important. Working to me allows me to connect with professors, lets me get to know to meet my peers. I also feel like mentally I would not be able to function and thrive if all I was doing was school 24/7. Having a break and a balance is what helps me succeed. And succeeding looks different to everybody. And for me, succeeding does not have to be a 4.0. And it is not. My mental health and my happiness is what comes first, and having a balance in my life. So when I am looking forward to setting these goals this next year, balance and being well-rounded and keeping my mental health and my stress levels in mind is kind of where everything starts. That being said, my first goal this semester is actually to work 15 hours a week. Now, that may seem like a lot, but that's actually a step down from how many hours I've worked a week in the past. This past semester, I worked about 20 hours a week on average. The semester before, I was hitting close to 24, 25 a week. And while I do think working, like I mentioned, is healthy for me, it keeps me, you know, my mind off of things, keeps me focused on other things, and it helps keep my pride in something other than school. I feel like having all of my pride and all my eggs in one basket, being my grades and my schoolwork, can be really, really disappointing. That being said, I tend to be a little bit of a workaholic, and one of my professors actually pointed that out this past semester, making comments as to how overworking yourself is definitely doable, even when CU does put a cap as to 25 hours a week on your work. there does come a time when you cross that line. And I think I have in the past. And balance is something I've always struggled with, but I really am trying to make an effort to be more balanced this semester. And so while my working and how many hours a week I'm working don't necessarily maybe fall into my educational goals, they in turn affect how my education and how my classes go. Number 2 is actually my goal GPA, and that is a 3.3. Might not sound like a lot, and that is about a B+ average, but I really am trying to be better about allowing myself to not ace everything. Now in hindsight, maybe it should be higher than a 3.3 because that means I'm probably getting a lot of B's if I get an A or 2. But either way, I feel like in the past, especially my first year, freshman year, I really struggled with getting bad exam scores back. And not even bad, like low A's, B's, that sort of thing. And that all the time is just not realistic given my other goals and given me wanting to have a balance. I have friends, and I've mentioned this in the past, that have 4.0s, and that's awesome for them, but they're also the people that don't have a sport they play, they don't work a job, let alone 2, they might only be in 12 credits, things of that sort, and that's okay, that's attainable for them, and that is where their priority is at. But my priority is being happy and being balanced, and again, having a 4.0 does not really fall within that category. So me setting the sort of relatively low goal GPA is actually allowing me to be okay with failure more. And that is something I'm trying to work on, because failing sucks and it hurts, and not even like failing, but doing maybe below what you know you're capable of sucks and it's hard, but everything comes at a cost, and me being able to take a step back from school and not always make it, you know, the highest priority of my day should be okay, and I should be allowed to take breaks. My third educational goal for this semester is actually to end the semester with more direction than I started with. I lately, I guess like the last month, have really been having kind of confusing and second thoughts about grad school, and not necessarily if I want to go or not, but what I want to do there. I am halfway through my junior year, which means I will be applying for grad school next fall, so in about, I don't know, 8 months time or so, 9 months time, and depending on the program that I go into, the type of school I go into really dictates A, what concentration I go into, and B, if I even have to pick one. So CU, now correct me if I'm wrong, people, but CU Boulder has 2 master's program tracks. With one of these tracks, you actually don't have to pick a specialty, which means if you're maybe unsure about what you want to do, you just take a big broad variety and then you take graduate projects at the end, which to me sounds awesome. If I am now having second thoughts about maybe I like remote sensing more than I thought I did, maybe I like astrodynamics a lot more than I thought I did, but I still really love fluids. This would allow me to kind of pick and choose everything, and take a little bit of everything without having to specialize and do something that I'm not maybe 110% set on. Don't get me wrong, I love fluids and I love aerodynamics, but I also don't know if I want to be doing like CFD work for the rest of my life. So I don't know, I'm having a little bit of second thoughts about that, and I've really lately been really confused as to which track I want to go, which concentration, if I even want to pick one. Now the downside of going through one of these programs where you do not pick a specialty is it tends to be a lot harder to get into a PhD program if that's something I've decided to do. I'm not sure if I am going to go that route or not. I think that'll come with time and more experience in the industry. But CU, if you take the traditional master's path and have a 3.25, you can do direct admission into the PhD program, which would be awesome, but you can't do that if you don't have the concentration master's track, if you do the professional master's track, which is where I'm totally rambling. I'm so sorry, this is so confusing. Overall, there's 2 tracks. One, you pick a specialty, one, you don't. If you do the one where you pick the specialty, you can go directly into the PhD program if you have a high enough GPA. If you do the one where you don't pick a specialty, you can't do that, which makes it then harder to get into PhD programs. You're applying more, you're trying to get more funding. You don't have quite as much like research experience under your belt because you haven't been doing one specific type of research for 2 years, which again makes it harder to get into a PhD program. So I don't know what I want to do, but I know it sounds lame and it completely disregards my whole SMART goals thing that I talked about at the beginning, where you're making like specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. Saying I want to have more direction does not really fall into any of those categories, but it's something I really truly do want to feel more confident in. And I might not have an answer, but I want to feel less confused than I do now. So in order for me to hopefully feel like I have more direction at the end of the semester, it's going to take things like going to office hours and connecting with professors more, talking to some of the PhD and master students in the lab I work for and in other labs, talking to some of the, accelerated master students I work with at work, things like that, getting to know and connect with these people a little bit more, maybe taking them out to coffee. And really trying to pick their brains about why they chose what they're doing and where they hope to go will hopefully give me more of an idea of what I want to do. And I don't think I'm gonna know what I want to do in 50 years. I don't think anybody knows what they want to do in 50 years, but I want to make sure I'm picking what I'm doing for the right reasons. So I don't know if that made any sense, but I hope that kind of gave y'all some direction. I really want y'all to keep in mind that your grades are not a reflection of who you are and what you're capable of. And I think, in my opinion, now I have friends with 4.0s and I love them to death, but if your school is your only priority, you aren't doing enough for yourself. I feel like, especially with research industries and a lot of universities these days that have so many undergraduate opportunities for work, internships, research, if you aren't able to focus and spend some time and energy doing some other things, I think you're doing it wrong, and that's completely my opinion, and take that with a grain of salt. But honestly, my jobs have been the best part of college, and I cannot imagine these past 2.5, 3 years without the experiences I've gained outside of the classroom. If you take away anything from this video, focus less on your grades do not define you, and go try something new. So those are my educational goals for next year. I hope you all enjoyed that. I hope that was somewhat useful. I always find it interesting to kind of understand why other people are, formulating thoughts the way they do and setting goals the way they do. So I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Peace out. Bye.